Gemara on Ayin Beis, whereby so Amar of Nachman Machlokes b'Mesipas. The Machlokes Beis Hillel Beis Shammai is regards to a Mesipas, which is Rashi says is a wooden wall which is less than 10 tefachim, which is a divider, but it's not a real. It wouldn't serve as a real mechitza. And there, Beis Shammai says it actually serves as a real mechitza because it divides the mansion into separate living compartments. According to Beis Hillel, though, it does not. It's not a good enough mechitza. Avol b'mechitza asara divrei kol eruv l'chol chabura v'chabura. But even Beis Hillel will admit that if you have a mechitza that is 10 tefachim high, then you need to make every individual mini household chabura, right, that lives in these partitions are separate, and they each have to contribute to the eruv separately. There are those who say it differently. Amar Nachman af ben Mesipas machlokes. Machlokes Beis Hillel Beis Shammai is even by Mesipas, meaning by both a Mesipas, which is a wooden mechitza less than 10 tefachim high, or even a mechitza that's 10 tefachim high. You will, so that according to Beis Shammai, it separates the living areas, and according to Beis Hillel, it doesn't. And therefore, according to Beis Hillel, you only need one area between everyone together, because they're all considered one living area. Okay, so Pligi bar of Chia, Rabbi Chia, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi. So Rabbi Chia, Rabbi Shimon. So Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi, they argued it slightly differently. Chad Amar Machlokes b'Mechitzos Hamagiyos L'Tikra. One said the Machlokes Beis Hillel Beis Shammai is when you have the walls, the temporary walls, which actually reach the ceiling. So there, even Beis Hillel says that being that they're all in one big house, one big mansion, so they're all together no matter what you do, even if you put up walls up to the ceiling. Temporary walls, that is. Permanent walls, different rooms, so then Rabbi still admits it's separate. Okay, but Beis Shammai says no. So if the walls reach the ceiling, then if the temporary walls reach the ceiling, then they're called separated, and they need to join into the eruv separately. Avol b'mechitza she'ein megiyos l'tikra divrei kol eruv echad lekulan. But even Beis Shammai admits that if the walls do not reach the ceiling, I'm assuming that means within 3 tefachim, then everyone agrees, even Beis Shammai, that one eruv works for all of them because they're considered to be together. Okay, and V'chad Amar and the other Mandamar says Machlokes b'Mechitzas she'ein megiyos l'tikra. In fact, everyone, right, that b'Mechitzas she'ein megiyos l'tikra, even a mechitza, assumingly a real mechitza 10 tefachim high and higher, even if it doesn't reach the roof, that's where the machlokes is. But if the walls reach the ceiling, then even Beis Hillel admits that that's called the good separation. And the machlokes is if it doesn't reach the ceiling, are they called separated or not in regards to making an eruv in regards to each of them contributing separately to the eruv? So Meisvei, we have to see from a Brisa, Amar Rabbi Yehuda HaSavar. Rabbi Yehuda HaSavar, so called because he was very sharp. He suffered from thinking. He used to think very well. So Lo nechlechu Beis Shammai uBeis Hillel al mechitzas hamagiyos l'tikra shesuchen eruv l'kol chabura v'chabura. Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel do not argue that in a case where the mechitzas, the temporary mechitzas, reach the ceiling, that they're called separated, and you need to make a eruv, each separate chabura, each separate family living area needs to contribute separately to the eruv. Where do they argue? On mechitzas she'ein megiyos l'tikra, on mechitzas which do not reach the roof. Beis Shammai omrim eruv l'chol chabura v'chabura. Each individual group needs to join into the eruv separately. One eruv for all of them works. So now we go through all the four opinions that we had until now. So Lamanda Amar b'mechitza is hamgias l'tikra. Machlekes according to the Manda Amar who says that the machlekes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is when the mechitzas reach the roof. So it's yufta. So we see over here it's not true that in fact the machlekes is actually when they do not reach the roof, but if they actually reach the roof, then everyone would agree that they're separated. According to the Mandamar who says that Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel are arguing in a case where the mechitzas do not reach the roof, they're 10 tefachim high or higher, but they do not reach the roof, so it's yata. So according to them, it's a good proof because it's exactly what Rabbi Yehuda Hasavar is saying. So lahach lishna, and going backwards. So lahach lishna the Amar Rav Nachman machlekes b'mesipis tiyufta. Now according to the first lashon in Rav Nachman that they're arguing by mesipis, by a wooden partitions which are less than 10 tefachim high. So tiyufta, it's a tiyufta to him also, because according to the first lashon of Rav Nachman, he held that in Beis Hillel that he only allows a case of this wooden partitions which are less than 10 tefachim high. But if it's 10 tefachim high, even Beis Hillel is moida that it's called that they're separated. Now here we're saying, according to Rabbi Yehuda Hasabar, that the machlekes is only starting from a real mechitza, not with one that is less. And so it's a tiyufta to that lashon also. And lahach lashon lishna, according to the second lashon, the Amar of Nachman, Rav Nachman says af b'mesipos machlekes, that they argue that Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai both argue by mesipos less than 10 tefachim, and even if it's 10 tefachim also. So leima tiyavet tiyufta. So maybe let us say it is a tiyufta, because we're saying over here that it's specifically machlekes only if it's a real mechitza, but maybe not where it is by a mesipos because it's not a real mechitza. So maybe there Beis Shammai would admit that they're not called separated. So Amar l'cha Rav Nachman would tell you pligi b'mechitza v'hu adin b'mesipos. No, Rabbi Yehuda Saber means that they argue by mechitza, any mechitza 10 tefachim high or higher, but also b'mesipos, even if it isn't 10 tefachim, even if it's a temporary partition, they're called separated, and you have to make an eruv separately. So why did Rabbi Yehuda Sabar specifically mention a real mechitza? To tell you the strength, literally the strength of Beis Hillel, who say that even in a mechitza 10 tefachim high, he will say they're all joined still, and it's not called a real mechitza. And Beis Hillel is going lekula, and he's saying that being the case with these partitions, so being that they don't reach the roof, inside the building they don't have to make an eruv, and if they want to join with people in the chutzner, they're all considered one big rishus, and any one of them could contribute to the common eruv in the chutzner. So Gemara asks, "V'lifli b'mesipos le'edicha koychan the Beis Shammai." So instead of saying the extreme end of Beis Hillel, that even a real mechitza, they're still considered to be together. So why don't we say that? Why doesn't Rabbi Yehuda Sabar say that they argue by mesipos to tell you that, to show how far Beis Shammai goes, that even by mesipos, even by a temporary wooden mechitza, less than 10 tefachim high, even there Beis Shammai says they're still considered separate. So the answer is no. We would rather tell how far those who are mater go. It's the power of heter is stronger. So Rashi, the Gillian says to look in Rashi and Beya. So there he says. So there he says that because a lot of times the when you hear someone who in the Gemara who says something is aser, a lot of times he said it misafik. He wasn't saying it that's ikar halacha. But he was saying that is he was being machmir because he was besafik. He was unsure. But if someone says something is mutter, so then he's 100% sure what he's talking about. If anyone would be besafik, you will always have to go l'chumra. You can't go l'kula. So that's why we say koich de'ater adif, that as if he was more sure of himself, or he was more okay. Fine. So Amar of Nachman, Amar Rav, halacha Rabbi Yehuda Sabar, halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda Sabar, that the machlekes is by any mechitza 10 tefachim or higher, but not where it reaches the roof, because there even base Hillel will be moida, that they're separated. Amar of Nachman Bar Yitzchak Masnisin Nami Deika. In fact, our Mishnah is also very medurik like that. Implies very heavily like that. Tektani umaydim bisman shemiksasin shurim v'chadorim ubealiyah shetzrichin erev l'chol chabura v'chabura. That umaydim Beis Hillel admits when some of them are living in separate rooms or in upper stories, that they're separate. They're for sure separate there, and they need an ERU for every group individually. All of them have to contribute separately to join the ERU in the chatzar. So my chadarim and my aliyah. What does it mean? Separate rooms or upper stories. Iluy chadarim mamish v'aliyos aliyos mamish. If it means they're actually in separate rooms or actually in separate stories of the building. So pshita is obvious. Of course they're in. Of course you need to contribute separately. It's no different than any regular hotel, for that matter. That it's separate living areas. Elalav ke'ein chadarim ke'ein aliyos. It means no, like chadarim, like separated rooms, and like upper stories. Umayniyus, and what are we referring to? Mechitzas hamigiyas l'tikra, referring to mechitzas which reach the roof. And so we're saying there, Beis Hillel admits is marta that they are called separate living areas. So Shmamina, it's a good proof. To Rabbi Yehuda Sabar, meaning that specifically in that case, Beis Hillel is marta by mechitzas which reach the roof. However, if any other mechitzas, Beis Hillel would still say no, they're still living in the same area. They're not called separated. Tana. So that's how the first way to learn the Mishnah. Now we have a completely different way of learning the Mishnah. Tana. It was taught b'med v'rimurim when were Beis Hillel B'Shami arguing Keshemaylichin es eruvan lemakaim acher, when these five groups who are in the mansion, they're putting the eruv either in a different chatzar or in a different house in the chatzar. So Rashi actually likes the other way, the second way, that they're putting the eruv in a different house in the chatzar. But if the eruv will be put in the mansion somewhere, in one of the rooms, so so even Misham would admit that being that it's inside the mansion, it's all considered one big rishus. And Beis Hillel says no, even without that, even if they're putting the eruv somewhere else, they're still considered one big rishus. And therefore, so who is this brisa going like, which says, Chamisha shegavu es eruvan, 5 people who are all considered in one rishus, who made a rishus amongst themselves. So, meaning like the case of a mansion, which they're all one rishus. So kishamelichin es eruvan lemakim acher, when they bring their eruv to another place, eruv echad lekulan. So only one person has to put down an eruv. One person could be a shliach for the entire group. Meaning, and the comparison is, so too by a mansion. So Rashi explains that everyone agrees, even Beis Shammai agrees, that inside the mansion they're all considered one big rishus, and they do not need an eruv chatzeris inside the mansion. What they do argue is when they're making a eruv outside the mansion, when they're putting it in a different house in the chutzner, then they're considered to be separate. According to Beis Hillel, even then, no, since they're all considered to be one rishus for themselves, so it's also considered one rishus in regards to everyone in the chutzner too.
So if the eruv is left in the mansion, then the guys in the mansion don't have to
contribute at all. Yeah,
Okay.
and everyone agrees to that.
Why would they think? What would the Alameda be that they would think that if they were all if they were all together, why would one think that you might have to separate them out again to make if there was a chutzner and they were trying to do it outside?
Meaning, like Beis Shammai, according.
Yeah, the other opinion. Why would he even think? Since you've already just said, okay, now we're all one. But now, if they're going to be going outside, okay, then they would have to be outside.
Right. So Rashi actually says that. Right. So Rashi actually goes through. Second. Right. Rashi's words are that afilu Beis Shammai nami traklan mechabran, that even everyone agrees that in a bigger building like in a mansion, so it joins them together, and you don't need an eruv. But he holds that when they're coming to make an eruv with a separate chutzner, there's no such concept of making a shliach for them. As one. It's
I guess just a different way to
put it this way: when even though in the chutzner they're all considered to be one, even though it's as if they put down even 5 people in one chutzner that put down a eruv chatzeres, so they're all considered to be one. But Beis Shammai says they're only considered to be one for the purpose of that chutzner. As soon as they leave the chutzner, they're all separate. Meaning, inside the chutzner, it's all one. We look at it as one big chutzner. But at the end of the day, they're still living in separate houses. And therefore, when they come to join a different chutzner, a different rishus, so then they're all separate, and they all have to join in separately. So, meaning even...
That's Beis Shammai.
Yeah. I mean that even in every chatzeres, it only joins them together for one... for the purposes of that chutzner, not for anything else, though. We had a... second. Okay, fine. Okay, so yeah, that's fine. So once we say this, so if you have the 5 people who collected their eruv in one chutzner, also, so go back to the Tanya. So the Tanya chamisha shegavu es eruvan. 5 people who made an eruv chatzeros in their chutzner. When they are making a eruv to in another place, in another chutzner, eruv echad lekulan. So one eruv for all of them works, meaning one person could be a shliach for the whole chutzner. Come on, so who's that going like? Beis Hillel. That's going like Beis Hillel, who says that in a mansion, so they're all together. It's like there's a chutzner in there. It's like an eruv in there. Being it's all in one building, and therefore they're all considered one rishus, and therefore even if the eruv is put down in another house in the chutzner, only one person has to contribute, and it's like he's contributing on behalf of all of them. And there are those who said the machlokes is like this. In our Mishnah, B'mei Memurim Kishahaya Eruv Ba Etzlan. Our Mishnah, Machlokes Beis Hillel Beis Shammai, is specifically when the eruv is coming to them inside the mansion. There, Beis Hillel says they're all like one rishus, and none of them have to contribute because they're all living inside the mansion. And however, if it's in the chutzner, if it's to someone else in the chutzner, so each of them are considered to be separate. They're only considered to be together so long as they're in the building. And even Beis Hillel says that. And Beis Shammai says no, even inside the mansion. So they're still considered to be separate. They're living in separate compartments, so they're separated. So but if they would take out their eruv to another place in the chaser, divrei hakol tzrichin eruv l'chol chabura v'chabura. Everyone says they need a separate contribution to the eruv from each individual group. Meaning, in regards to everyone else living in the chaser, they're not considered to be living together in one house. Only in regards to themselves. So once we say this, so Kaman Azla Hadatanya, who's this price going like, which says Chamisha Shekavu Sayuvan, 5 people who collected their eruv, they made an eruv chaseris. Keshamay Lichin es eruvan lakim acher, when they're carrying their eruv to another place, when they want to be joined in with another chaser. Eruv echad lekulan, so one person could be shliach, could go on behalf of everyone else. Keman, who's that going like? That's not going like anyone. The reason is because even Beis Hillel, they're saying now agrees that they're only considered to be together in regards to themselves, but not in regards to anyone else. And therefore, in regards to anyone else, when they're making a eruv chaseris with another chaser, they have to. Everyone separately has to contribute. Okay, now try to start the Mishnah and a bit of the Gemara. So, up until now, we're discussing five groups who are living in the same house who are not related, nothing to do with each other. Now, if they're, as we'll see, if they're brothers, though, there are different halachas. The reason is, since they're all part of the same family, there's more of a reason to say that they're connected, they're together. 5 strangers who live in, for example, an apartment building, they're not. They don't have anything to do with each other. Okay, so the Mishnah says, "Ha'achin shahayu oichlin al shulchan aviyim." 5, so not 5 brothers who are eating by their father's table, v'yashenim bevatayim, and they sleep in their individual houses. Tzrichin eruv l'chol echad ve'echad. So when they're coming to join in to a eruv in the chater, so each of them have to contribute separately. Lefigach, therefore, im shakach ech mehem v'le'ir. If one of them forgot and did not join to the eruv, mivatel s'shusai, so he has to be mivatel his rishos. So emasai. So when was this said? Bisman shemaylichin eruvan lemakaim acher. That's if they bring the eruv to another place. So usually this means to another chaser. In this case, Rashi says it means if the eruv gets put into one of the houses which is not belonging to the father or any of the brothers. If the eruv, actually Rashi says specifically in the house of the father. If the eruv would be put in the house in the father's house, so or suppose you're in a chaser that's only the father and the brothers, no one else lives there. So so in that case, if the eruv is in the father's house, or if there's no diyun bechaser, then einon tzrichin ariv, then you do not need an eruv. Then you do not need to make an eruv. The reason is, meaning the brothers do not have to make an eruv. So the reason is because when it's in the father's house, so they're all considered connected to the father's house because they all eat by his table. So that all connects them to their father's house, and therefore so they don't have to join in with the eruv; they're automatically joined, and just the other people in the chaser have to contribute. And if there are no others in the chaser besides the father and the brothers, so they're all one big family, and you don't need an eruv; they're all connected. Fine. So Gemara says, we see a proof from here, Makaim Lina Garim, that being that even though they're eating by the father's table, being that they sleep in separate houses, so we see it's a place of sleeping which separates them, which makes it that they have to join into the eruv separately. So even though they're considered connected in a smaller sense, that if it's in their father's house or if there's no one else there, then they're considered connected. But being that they sleep in separate houses, if the eruv will be put down in another house in the chaser, then they each have to contribute separately. They're not considered to be living together. So Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav b'mekabli pras shanu. In fact, no, could be even that you go by where they eat. That the place of where their bread is kaiveya their dira. as we've been saying until now, that really wherever your food is, that's where your dira is. And when the Mishnah says that they were oichlin al shulchan avi, it doesn't mean they actually ate by his house. It means he gave them food, that they accepted a portion from him, and that's enough to join them together if there's no one else there, for example, or if the heir is by the father's house. But if not, but really they eat by their own house also. Okay, so we turn the brayso. Mishi yesh lo bayis beishar. Sorry, you have a gatehouse, achsadra, type of a balcony, or a. It's actually an enclosed, like a tent, a fenced-in area. Umar peses bechaser, or a bechaser chaver, or a marpeset is like a porch by in their friend's chaser. Hariza inoy oiser alav. He doesn't make it usher on the friend, meaning because he's not considered. Because he's considered to. Reason is because he's considered to be living there. Beis HaTevin, Beis HaBakar, Beis HaEtzim. So if you have a greenery, you have a place for cattle, you have a place for storing wood, Beis HaOitzreis, or any other storage area. Harez Oiser Love, he makes it Aser on him because he has because he's, even though he's not living there, but he has a portion in his chaser, therefore he has to join in. No, only a place where people live, that only that type of place makes it aser. Okay, so Amar Rabbi Yehuda, and also Rabbi Yehuda says, to back this up, Ma'aseh ben Nafchosh ahayu loy chamesh chatzeres, be'usha he had 5 chatzeres in Usha, Uba Ma'aseh l'fnei chachamim, ve'amu einoi oiser ela beis dira bilvad. Now the only aser, the place where he actually lives, even though he has many chatzeres, but only the place where he lives, he makes it aser. So Gemara says, beis dira salkadaydach, you think that if he has a place of living, only a house, only actually a place where you're able to live, makes it aser. It's not true. We found in the Gemaras until now that even an empty house of a Jew makes it aser for the people to live in the chatzar without an eruv. Ela'ima makam dir. What does it mean? It means a makam dira. So yeah, just go a few lines. So my makam dira, what does it mean a makam dira? Avamar makam pita, a place where you put your bread. That's where Rashi says where you eat. B'shmuel amar makam lina, a place where you sleep. That's what is kaiveya, if they're considered to be separate lodgings or not to require you to put an eruv. But if not, then you don't need to join separately. Okay. Okay.